because Radharani is the the force principle of the universe. Without Radharani, there is no creation. So that's how I see it. Theology, as I said, is just science. It's nothing other than science, and it's all astrological science. So when I speak astrologically, you know, and theologically, because they're one and the same science, just viewed differently. So your perspective is very good. It's true. All of this happened, but all I wish to add is that when I say that Christianity, there never was a time when it didn't exist, I'm not saying as the form as we know it and see it today. All the esoteric, great occult scholars and all the great philosophers that I've ever studied, including a couple of quotes which I'll read in a minute from Eusebius and Augustus, what so-called church historians of the 3rd century. Okay, now we won't be prejudiced against them because they obviously were Roman, but let's just see what they've got to say. And I could get other quotes, but I'm not prepared for this. So I know I've presented this many times. Okay, quotes where people say that the true original religion of the universe is based on crystal science, and it's Christian. Hence, the alphabet is A, B, C, D, abracadabra, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, Jack, L, L, M, N, lumen, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, Christo. And when you go to the runes, you'll see all the runes as well. The 5 runes line up exactly as the English do, Christo. When you go to Hebrew alphabet, the last 4 letters are Christ, Kaf, Resh, Shin, and Tav. Right there at the end of all alphabets, you see this crystal word. Okay, so in our 26-letter alphabet, which is a Christian alphabet because it has Christ embedded in it, it is this timeline precedes anything you talk about where you are quoting the Christian religion began here and started there and what have you. You can't do this. With the syncretism I teach, I've gone beyond. I don't acknowledge any of these timelines. I use them, but I don't acknowledge them. From the start of the universe was the Lamb-Ram religion, and that is astrological. And it's the science of how to understand torus field energy and how to understand the atom. If you were talking about Ma'at is an anagram for atom, okay? All is atom, the Egyptians always said. And atomic science is Christian science. That's why they have a T and an O on their churches, because that's Tom. Yeah, the science of Tom, okay? Your anatomy, yeah? And so this is a Christic science. It's embedded in your alphabet, and it's the DOS of all religions. I don't care about talking. I don't care to argue with Hare Krishnas that the Sanskrit is the oldest and their Bhagavad Gita is the best, and the Christians who argue their Bible is and kill other people because they believe that, because they believe. I don't have beliefs. I don't believe in Italian. I know it, so I speak it. I don't believe in astrology. I know it, so I speak it. I don't believe in Christ or Christianity. I know these sciences, so I practice them. Religion is a good word because it means to tie yourself to a way of life that will elevate you. When you look at it from the materialist way they describe religion, yeah, it's a bad word, but I've reclaimed it.
Yeah,
it's a good
see, and that's the problem I have. I'm glad that you say that because that's the problem I have. Nigger is a good word because if you do the history of it, you'll see that it's really Naga and it's actually a deity. It's a good word. But if I go in a room full of people who don't know that saying niggers and I'm white, it's not going to be a good experience for me. So we have to speak in context, understanding that most of the world are corrupted and that the people who know the truth are preying on their ignorance by using certain keywords. So the more enlightened you become, the more words you delete from your vocabulary for the sake of confusion.
Yes, hang on, brother, please.
Okay.
May I? Because I would like to elaborate a little bit more. Correct. Yes, we lose words that might confuse people, but we reclaim them as the energy of angelic energy that languages are. This is what I'm saying. We don't have to make understand be a bad word when you're going to court. We don't have to make a person be a bad word because it also means corporation. We can reclaim those words when we operate and speak on a high level. Syncretism does this, brother. So everything you say is correct. I will not argue any of that. You've done some good research there. But my premise is the premise of all the syncretists of history: Marsilio Ficino, Pico, Porphyry, all the great astrologers, the Neoplatonists, they all said this is a perennial science. Our pagan so-called religion that we practice differs not from Christianity.
Yeah,
They've always been.
The people you name, I don't consider them great people. I consider them deceivers, no different than ancient Neil deGrasse Tyson's, who hid the truth of the Great Mother. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you either, because it seems like we're on the same page. I think where we differ from is you're saying that at the beginning was Atum. No, Atum is Narmer. Atum is Adam, or Adamu, or Pan, Baphomet, Dagon, the fish god who you see here. That is the Pope. So what I'm telling you is Atum's origin starts with Genesis. And you can say that he's the primordial source, but that's not true. Even the Christians everyone in pre-dynastic world had reverence of the great womb, not Atum. They didn't revere the sun or the moon. They revered the North Pole. And that became Santa Claus. You can see the Pope dressed like Santa Claus. That Dagon, who Jesus come from, wear the Santa Claus hat. So I'm giving you something, Santos. When you talk about Christ is embedded in the alphabets, you proving my point. The alphabets are words, are symbols that are used to spell. When you spell, you're practicing deceptive magic now, because what they want you to spell out is the name of the king. So when you use alphabets the way you use them to find Christ, that's exactly what they want you to find, because that's the ghost spell. You're spelling out the name of the ghost of Narmer. As you can see here, he has the fake beard on of the Pharaoh. So yes, you can find Christ in the alphabets, because the alphabets aren't pre-dynastic. They are spells. Each alphabet is a symbol. And once you start looking at the alphabets as individual hieroglyphs that tell their own message, and quit using them to spell something out, then you get back in tune with nature and practice true syncretism. Now you're centering all of your knowledge around the pole energy, which is the center of the earth, and you're not swaying it to Atum or Saturn. You're going back, centering it around a tree of life energy, which seeks to sync all things together unbiasedly. So when you do that, you don't even deal with alphabets and spelling. True etymology, I'm going to say what gives us a better understanding of our creation with etymology is sacred geometry. And you can't have etymology without sacred geometry. The etymology is the testifying to the sacred geometry. That's why I can show you the Queen of Heaven here and compare her to the spade, because it's the outline. If you outline her, it reveals who she is. That's why she's dark, because your shadow is your sacred geometry. The shadow is what gives us the truth. We see in the darkness, not in the light. We see in meditation. When we go within, we see the truth. So the light blinded us, the Christ halo. The sun gods blinded us away from this womb. The prayer stopped us from meditation. So when we pray, we get preyed upon. When you talk about Nut, she's a representation of a pregnant womb. She's a representation of sacred geometry. You can't just have etymology without sacred geometry, and that's the mistake you're making, Santos. So I'm just trying to teach you something deeper to take your deeper level. Now, if you look at Nut here, she's the outline of the cosmos. meaning that if you practice the formula she's telling you to practice by outlining things, you create their shadow, which is their sacred geometry. She's dark and she's the outline. When you outline things, it reveals their sacred geometry, just like I'm doing with this spade. You don't need words to spell this. Once I start giving you words, it starts distorting the truth. A picture is worth 1,000 words and a symbol is worth 1,000,000 pictures. So if you're still putting alphabets together, rise to a higher level. You have to step your game up and get to the symbol and get beyond the alphabets, because let's talk about the alphabets a minute. They call the ABCs because we're dealing with the archbow. We're dealing with the cornerstones. We're dealing with, if you look at this, the alphabet A for arch. This is all dealing with the female vagina. It shapes like a pie slice. That's the female vagina. That's nut enclosing gale. This is the primordial source. This is the binary code, the 0 and the 1. Alphabet A, you have an arch and a line above that arch, and that's nut and gale. Basically, what I want to point out, because the stuff I'm teaching y'all ain't heard before, and we hear, Santos teaching on the Christian side all the time. Hear me out. Let me give you what none of you knew about. Ain't been teaching it, then I'm gonna be mad. So please tell me you didn't know. This is the A. This is the alphabet A. All right. Ah, that's the sound of a church choir. That's the sound that they give you when they open up the Bible or they open up the sacred books. They have a light shining and it says, ah, that's Om. That's the harmonic resonance of our cosmos, which is a temple, a pregnant womb. Pregnant is pregnant. She represents sacred geometry. Geometry deals with the earth. If you don't start outlining things, you won't reveal the truth or the shadow. Just like I just showed you, the queen of heaven is the spade. Well, let me reveal to you who Jesus is. Let's take a Christian cross. I thank y'all for bearing with me. Something that I really think is very important. Paint real quick. Because everything Santos saying, we aware of his teachings. We both agree, but I don't think we are aware of this deeper side that I'm about to give to it now. So if I'm teaching anybody anything, including Santos, it'll make my day, because I think this stuff can actually batter our understanding. Okay, let me do something real quick. So a kite is a Christ. It's a yoni and a womb. Right now, you don't understand me, but I'm going to show you what I mean right now. And when you outline things, you reveal the truth behind them. This is sacred geometry. This is what Nut is doing. The sky god is Nut. She's an outline of the cosmos. She's dark because the night sky you looking at above you is the shadow. All right. So it's when you say the word shades, the word Hades is in it. Hades is the Norse underworld or the Greek underworld. But Hades is shades, dealing with the shadow realm or the dark realm. And when you outline things, you bring the shadow to light. And that's called sacred geometry. That reveals the origin of that which you outline. So let's do it with the cross like I just showed you. So when you outline the cross, is the crest. And what is the crest? The crest is the coat of arms that I just showed you the royal families got. Y'all got national flags. They got family crest. This crest is a kite. It's what allow you to take flight. It's a kite. We use them to fly. We fly these across the sky. Hold on. Can y'all see this? There we go. So when you outline across, you get a kite. The Christ is the kite. The kite is the crest, the shield, the womb of the woman. That's why when you pull up pictures of Christ, let me show you something. Hold on, guys. Jesus Christ, Mary. So when you pull up pictures of Christ, right, is that, let me find it for you. You will see Christ coming out of a yoni shape. This would be the same shape I showed you here in pink. Christ represents, so the cross in the middle would be, if you look in the middle of this cosmos, you see a God called Shu. If you look in the middle of this Kemetic cosmos, you see a God called Shu with his hands raised or spread out. That's really the place where the Great Mother is supposed to be. Let me show y'all something. Place in the middle where you see Shu at, a trident is. Thank y'all for I want to give this quick teaching. Look in the middle here, you see the tree of life. That's the mother goddess. In all cultures, that tree is a trident. They gave it to the devil, but the devil is the diva, the great diva, the great mother. And they cursed her in the Bible. All throughout the Bible, the sacred feminine is cursed. They tell you that the trident is evil, that the woman is evil. But if you look in the middle of this, it's a womb or a football shape. That's what the woman womb is. Everything in nature has this womb shape, this hexagon shape. But at the middle here, you see Shu with his hand raised. That cosmology as well represent the tree of life. That became Christ on the cross. And they got rid of the Great Mother and replaced her with a tomb. So sacred geometry, like I said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You don't have to bend and twist alphabets to show me how Christ is important. When I'm showing you with a picture that's worth 1,000 words, that is all deception, and his phony butt is just in the way of the Great Mother. He represents the North Pole, just like what the pharaohs and the popes represent. They're keeping us away from the true center of the earth and got us centered around these male deities. We need to quit thinking about Christ and start thinking about that magnetic energy at the center of the earth that the ancients was talking about. About that, as long as y'all keep relating it to this Christ character. Because if you look at him, sacred geometry, like I said, let me pull this up again. Jesus Christ and sacred womb. Hold on. If you pull up Jesus Christ and sacred womb, is Jesus busting out of the womb, and that's a very popular. It looks just like this. This is the womb of a woman, the opening to a vagina. And woman both comes out of that womb. That's why you see man and woman right here in this beautiful art. You have Jesus like this. On a lot of Christian art, you'll see Jesus, and behind him is an arch. That's Nut. That's the sky god is Nut. And Jesus is supposed to be the tree of life. They changed the cosmology, y'all, because cosmology, what you have, right, is Gail penis pointed up at Nut, symbolizing how man and woman perpetuate life here. You'll see this erected phallus. The pharaohs took this stuff and corrupted it, and now we worship the phallus, or we worship only Jesus or Atum, when it's more than Atum. They hid the true source of it all from you when they got rid of the arch of the covenant, which is the sky goddess. She is the covenant. The covenant is the covering. The cove is covering, the covering that protects Gail. When you look at Jesus, they removed her and just replaced her with a simple arch. But they still got Jesus in the middle, but they want to hide the sacred feminine because that's what the Bible is about. It's about cursing Nut, cursing the sacred feminine. Anyone says that's what it's about. People, the sacred feminine must be restored. Jesus is not the source, and the Bible is not the original account of it. It really has nothing to do with what we need to be. It's in the way of us getting back, reconnecting with ourselves. Once all of the religious texts and books are done away with, we can focus back on nature, which was hidden by all of these texts. Because I just showed you what we see in nature is man and woman coming from the womb of a woman. Bible teach the God of the Bible don't even have a significant other. How can I go to him for advice on how to run my marriage if he don't even have a woman? Everybody we see in nature have man and woman came from a mom and daddy, but the God of the Bible don't, because it's lacking balance. It has something against the feminine. Therefore, I have something against it. The Ark of the Covenant ain't got nothing to do with no little ship. The Ark of the Covenant is the sky goddess Nut. She's the covering. But when you go to talking about the Bible and talk about Noah and all of that, that hides the truth. When you outline a cross, you get a family crest. So our sovereignty is hidden behind the cross, which is a symbol of death, not life. The tomb is the womb. All right. So if you outline a cross again, you get the symbol of sovereignty, but that is hidden with the cross. The cross hides your sovereignty. That crest you see there, that's what we all supposed to be revering life, as you can see here. This is the Aztec Mayan universal tree of life. That is the equivalent of a family crest, what you get when you outline a Christian cross. Or it's called a kite. The same thing here. The X chromosome is the crossroads. That's what's happening at the North Pole. It's a crossroads of all worlds. There are many Earth on this endless plane, but they're just like we have highways where all of these main roads intersect and create a four-way. We have cosmological crossroads, and we call them North Poles or centers. And this is where all of the worlds meet up. People from different cosmic eggs. This was the world center, the Garden of Eden, before we made new world centers in Egypt and Greece. So if we were to go to the North Pole now, we would see all kind of different creatures that still meet up there, coming from all different worlds to trade, technology, spirituality, and all of that right there at the North Pole. It's a cosmological crossroads, and there are many. And I can get deep into that in the future, but all of this magic is hidden behind Christ on the cross. The Holy Grail ain't got nothing to do with a dumb cup that talking about the blood of Christ. It's got everything to do with the womb of the woman. So anyone that's still directing us back to a biblical foundation, they don't understand the sacred feminine, and they're doing the work of the New World Order. All back.
Santos.
Yes.
It's your turn.
Okay. I was just waiting for someone else to have a go if they wanted to. Yeah, look, the way I see it from a syncretism point of view is Nut and Mat are Atum. And Christ is the mother goddess. It's Isis. Only people just have only been, exposed to half the truth, you see. They look at a man. It's obvious why Jesus is always predominantly effeminate. It's because it's the hermetic true nature of the universe. There's the two poles and there's the neutral in the middle. So all that has happened with these satanic religions that have taken our sacred astrological wisdom and turned them into books of empire to enslave people by literalizing them, turning us into idiots. All that they've done is that they've just, it's only recent too, it's probably only exactly going back to say the, 3000 BCE mark, 5,000 years ago, definitely corruption, big time. And according to occult science, this is when the Silver Age ended, more or less. Bronze Age began, and that's about 50% of consciousness. So then after that, around 2,000 years ago, where supposed Christianity began, which it didn't, it began from the start of Atum, which is the explosive sound of magnetic creation. Tom. Okay. So those letters of the alphabet, yes, they are spells. They're good spells, gospels. Good spells, bad spells. There's evil spells and there's good spells. Okay. So I reclaim all those 26 letters of the prime creator, and they are his tools for creation. I also use those very tools, and I thank him for those tools, and I use them properly. All is Atum, and I've learnt that it is. Ma'at is the queen of the universe, and everything patriarchy tells you is about men and boys. Just look at it for what it really is. It really is Ma'at and Nut, and that's what Christ is. Christ is essentially the light. You see, embedded in the runes of the name Christ, you have the letter C, R. These are the letters in the alphabet, C-R-I-S-T-U. Kano, the letter C, means clarity. No brainer. That's Christ, the light. R is Raido, which means Ra, Dio, the God, riding on his chariot along the ecliptic. S is Soulu, in other words, the soul. Christ is the soul of the universe. T is Tiwaz, which is the warrior, the fighter. Christ, the letter T, is the arrow of Christ, the fighter. And Uruz, the letter U, is Aries, the Lamb of God. Followed then is the letter V in all alphabets. V is Thor, the rune of Jupiter. Yes, it's called Thurisaz, excuse me. I was confused with Tiwaz. So what you have there, you do have a spell. Yes, you are correct, bro Sanchez. Absolutely. When you got your eyes open, you see all these things. I don't judge them for good and bad, though. That's it. I see them like knives. You know, yes, they're bad. Oh, yeah, knives. Woo, watch out. That knife's bad. And you could call it that, you know, because it's a badass knife, you know. You cut yourself every time you look at it, you know. But
yeah,
but knives.
I wouldn't really call it a knife. I would compare it to a nuclear bomb, or if you're going to compare it to a knife, compare it to what the Bible say, a double-edged knife, meaning it's cutting the person that's swinging it too. So it's dangerous the moment you pick it up. In other words, if it's a two-edged sword, when I pick it up, I'm going to get cut before I even start cutting anybody else. It's like a person that have a deadly disease infecting other people. That's what spreading Christianity is like. So that's why I say we should cure the earth of this disease by giving it the truth, which the disease hides. And when you went into the alphabets, you still went into mythology. You didn't really, for example, when you said that the T is Thor, well, That's not what it is. And I don't mean to argue here or debate, because that's not